In this video, I wanted to go in depth on how teachers have built a new structure for our 5th period class, with plans to take learning to a deeper level through some interesting new approaches, including structuring parts of our class to center around some video game style progression systems, as well as building in a lot of choice in how students tackle their learning this year. Let's start with some background. The academic team takes two forms in order to prepare students for success in academic competitions each year. Students who join the academic team participate in a 5th period class each day, with a coach from each grade level. This class is unique from all other 5th period classes at the school, as it builds in a structure where students can choose a specific subject area to study during most of the week. Think of it as an extension of your learning. You are getting amazing instruction in math, science, social studies, language arts, and arts and humanities classes from your teachers during the day. Our 5th period class allows you to pick a subject where you want your learning to go deeper. We've built an accelerated learning path for you to work on content that's sometimes grade levels ahead, and in this class you'll be collaborating with peers learning at the same pace that you are. The SCMS academic team also functions as an extracurricular activity, like a sports team, drama, and other programs at school. We run after-school practices specifically focusing in on strategies for competitions, like quick recall questions, future problem-solving team, as well as practices specifically geared towards students working on written assessments. We'll talk more about the extracurricular aspect of our team later on, and also a little bit more about our tradition of success at SCMS. If you'd like some more information on that, I'd recommend you watch this video on our celebration spotlight from last year. For now, I want to talk about how we plan on transforming our learning this year. The first goal teachers had for the next school year was to transform the way we looked at learning. Whether students participate with the academic team for just one school year or all the way through their time at Spencer County Middle School, we want this class to be one that builds students' skills for the real world. And we want it to be one that encourages them to be lifelong learners. People that are not just learning because they have to, because they're genuinely interested in a topic. Teachers spent time collaborating with other teachers and looking at the process of learning as a whole. And ultimately, we decided that we really wanted to build our class with something called deeper learning in mind. The basis of that is just asking, how could we make our extremely unique class one where we're never just scratching the surface, where students can always dig a little bit deeper? The graphics published on screen right now kind of outline the framework we've been looking for this class. And we'll be discussing these ideas with students frequently as we get started with our learning. You can see the deeper learning competencies here, just some big ideas we kind of have to take our learning to a deeper level. And this chart kind of shows how we want to transform learning and take it from the left side of the page where things are very basic, things are very old school, and take it to where learning is an environment that encapsulates these ideas on the right. One of the challenges of teaching a class for academic team students is that with this class, we're attempting to sort of teach 5 different classes at once. This means that over the years, our class has grown a little less quote-unquote traditional each year that goes by. A teacher standing in front of the classroom and giving a lecture for 50 minutes on a subject just doesn't work for this classroom. It really doesn't work for any classroom. Basically, students, where they're all studying different content in our class and studying those subjects at sometimes dramatically different paces, have to have something different. In the past, we've tackled this a few different ways. In recent years, we've attempted to align the KAAC middle grade study curriculum with a booklet of projects that students could work on and choose to grow with their subject area. This program we use emphasized student choice, and it had some basic project-based learning for students. It also allowed students who wanted to do so to work ahead, and we had some students who completed way more projects than we expected each quarter. While we wanted to keep a structure where students could work ahead, we also looked at several problems that we ran into and tried to outline some goals where we could change that for the next school year. Running through our outline kind of quickly, we recognized after being in many different quick recall matches and looking at dozens, if not hundreds of written assessment tests, that there's some topics that are repeated so frequently that we absolutely have to go through them in order for students to be successful in these buzzer questions or on these written tests. We also recognize that giving students complete freedom in choosing what project they wanted to work on in a class meant that some students would always gravitate towards projects that were quicker, or that they would pick projects where they already had a wealth of prior knowledge so that that project would be easier. Essentially, our goal was to create a system where we did look at those topics that were repeated constantly, where every student looks at those topics that are repeated so they don't fall behind other students, but that we would still be able to allow student choice in some regards. There has to be some form of direct instruction on some topics. We also decided that progress monitoring was too difficult for pretty much everybody involved with the system we were using in previous years. Students could complete projects and turn them in at any point, which was great. They could work at their own pace. They could turn them in without needing a teacher to be there. But the issue was that it was always kind of a struggle to see where students were at any given time. Students would frequently ask how many projects they had turned in a quarter because it was difficult for them to monitor their progress. Parents and guardians couldn't check at any point to see how far students had progressed, and teachers constantly had to juggle looking up projects and seeing if students were finished. So what we really wanted to do this year was create a student-facing way to track progress and grades in the class. And whatever we did, we wanted parents and guardians to have access to this so they could always check in on students if they needed to. Something beyond just infinite campus grades. While many of our students had a great experience completing projects the last few years and came up with some truly extraordinary results, we felt like a lot of the projects that students had access to just sort of scratched the surface. We've tried to transform our projects so that students are creating something, kind of like they'd be doing in the real world. They'll be ending or finishing their project with some sort of product to show off for it, or at least completing some tangible or permanent goal that's not just memorizing something, repeating it once, and then forgetting it. We want it to be more realistic, more real-life applicable. We hope that that creation of something should lead to remembering that content at a deeper level. And if students are creating really awesome products from these projects, we want them to have easy access to it. We plan on taking these projects, or the products that students create, and posting them in a showcase so that students can refer back to them at any time, as well as share them and collaborate with peers. They'll have access to these for the school year, and they can celebrate those successes in this space. The final thing we recognize is that students in this class are going the extra mile to complete tasks that are frequently difficult. They are choosing to take this difficult class, and what we really want to do is celebrate their intrinsic motivation to do this. Thank students and celebrate those successes they find in this class. We also want to throw in some small external rewards for students on a consistent basis. So we have that goal of trying to celebrate success as the year goes on, all year. With those goals in mind, teachers kind of took two different things that we thought would really make this class year work. The first of those is a framework called the Modern Classrooms Project. Teachers did some professional learning on this over the last few months of school, and we thought that it would fit very well with the way we wanted to structure academic team going forward. It builds in a self-paced structure for students where they can choose what they want to accomplish each day. They can work ahead or catch up if they fall behind, and they can continue any part of their learning at home if they need to. It builds in a structure of must-do activities that students must complete for their grade, as well as should-do and aspire-to-do challenge activities to grow stronger in their subject area and to extend their learning. We'll be incorporating what's called blended learning through providing instructional videos for students. These are typically pretty quick 4 to 8 minute sessions for students to go through videos where one of their teachers or coaches is going through a topic. We'll be specifically going over notes that KAC has provided about academic team topics. Those really help with questions if you're able to go through them. While a lot of these are just sort of an introduction to topics, they give us kind of a starting baseline so that we can explore deeper into them when we get into our more project-based learning in the class. I also mentioned self-paced learning, and we'll be incorporating our goal of having some kind of a progress chart for students to look at any time. With this chart, there'll be no need to wait for the Infinite Campus Gradebook to update. Students and parents or guardians can pop into this page that students will have access to at all times and see student progress in the class. This isn't a grade book, as grades aren't set until the end of a quarter, and because everyone will be working at different paces on what areas they want, everybody's chart will look different. As long as your pace works for you as a student, you participate each day in class, and you're finished with this chart or your goal by the end of the quarter, you're going to be charting the course. Coaches will also be meeting with students in bi-weekly mentoring sessions to help them reflect and goal set for the weeks ahead, and will be able to communicate with parents and guardians frequently or answer any questions instantly if they have questions about student progress through this chart. Students will receive a grade for the class at the end of each quarter, just like every other class, but that grade is going to be calculated through what's called a mastery-based system. This just means that students must complete a goal for each assignment or project they have to achieve mastery, and then we'll check it off a list. Through this, if you don't complete something as required, your teachers will just give it back to you. Some tasks may require several attempts to complete, and that's okay. This is a system where you cannot get an F on an assignment unless you basically just don't do it at all. Every assignment you complete on your chart will have a section describing what you'll be doing to practice a target, what you'll be doing to show mastery, and what you can do to complete an assignment if your teacher says that it doesn't yet show mastery. We're looking at sort of having a game-based learning approach to this. We're kind of looking at the way that students progress in video games as a way that they would be progressing in this classroom. I was kind of inspired to include this part of the framework when I heard a teacher at an OVEC-led training session mention the way he incorporates game-based learning into his classroom. This led to me digging a little bit online and reading some articles recently published about how some different teachers in our region and in Kentucky have kind of structured their classes in different ways that sound extremely fun. Several of them structured their classes in a way where students sort of took on the role of characters, as if they were playing a tabletop RPG, with fun examples like students looking through the eyes of a Roman soldier marching to war, and then working together and rolling dice to determine success or failure in history-themed trials. There were tons of other great examples, but while I don't have much experience with these types of tabletop games and definitely not running that type of thing in my classroom before, I've been playing video games that use many of the same systems that are in these games since I was the age of my students or before. According to this USA Today article and a few others that I looked at, around 2/3 of Americans play video games regularly. I ran an after-school video game club last year and really enjoyed giving students some time at school to do something fun. And while I don't get to play as many video games as I like today, I'm buying and playing new games every year. I have 3 younger brothers, and we've all been playing the new Legend of Zelda game on the Nintendo Switch and talking about it when we meet up. One of the things that's great about this game, and about a lot of the best video games, is that you're constantly learning while you play. Through puzzles and battles and sometimes just random observations in this video game world, you're learning about how this world and the game works. And your character is getting stronger to help you progress as a reward for learning and accomplishing goals that are put in the game. Most games today aren't like famous and still extremely fun arcade games like Pac-Man and Galaga. In those games, you put a quarter in the machine, you played until you lost, and were rewarded with a score at the end of the game. While you did get better at these games the more you played them, they didn't have the progression that modern video games have. The goal in those games was very linear: get the high score. I sometimes worry that education today is still structured a little bit too much, like those past games where getting the high score was the only thing that matters. It's not really like the real world, but unfortunately I feel like that grade you get at the end of a class is sometimes the only real marker of progression that students get. In video games that are released today, you may spend hours enjoying side missions for fun. You may have a deep and engaging story in that game that you want to follow to the end as something that wants you to keep going forward. You may still be trying to get a high score in that game, but you may be trying to get it in a live environment against a dozen other highly skilled people. There's a lot more player choice involved in games today, a lot more agency in playing the game like you want to and defining the path you want to take. Video games today really want to put you into the shoes of a character and have you progress through the eyes of that character. In most modern games, you create a character and grow that character however you want to do so by completing quests, missions, or other tasks. This is something that's kind of a staple of every genre now, from sports games having some sort of character progression or team progression to your traditional science fiction or fantasy style video games. You're typically having some kind of character and they're growing in some way. So we decided to try something a little bit differently this year. We're going to be structuring our academic team class as if it were a video game. So welcome to the Academy. You'll dive deeper into the structure of this adventure later on, but we're going to touch on the basics. We'll say a rift has opened, transporting you and your classmates into a new world. Initially lost, confused, and bewildered, you quickly find that the education you've picked up in your world and the subject areas you've studied in school is actually extremely applicable here. In this world, the more knowledge a person acquires, the more powerful they grow in whatever area they choose. Because you're already extremely smart, you settle into life in this world pretty quickly, which is extremely convenient for you. It's not a terrible place to live. Your quiet life in this world is interrupted one day when you receive an official invitation to the Academy, a school that trains heroes in this world that you're just beginning to learn about and understand. One of the things you'll be doing is choosing your character. In order to join the Academy, you'll need to choose a subject you will focus on. This subject will determine what class you'll be studying at the Academy. The list is as follows. Students who pick science as a focus area will be members of the Ranger class. Students who choose social studies as an area will be members of the Knight class. Students who choose language arts as an area will be members of the Beastmaster class. Students who choose math as an area will be members of the Magician class. And students who choose arts and humanities as their area to focus on will be members of the Bard class. Every class represents a field of study, and you should be sure to pick based on what subject area you love to study, rather than which class just kind of sounds the coolest. Each class will follow a different path, studying different materials, battling different monsters, completing different quests, and unraveling different mysteries about the world you'll be exploring. You'll earn experience for your character, grow in your subject, and later on will begin earning items you can use in your adventure. You'll have access to a specific website for your class all year, with a link from our Google Classroom page to each. Learning at the Academy will help you in two ways. In the real world, you'll be growing in your academic team skills, and at the Academy, you'll be completing tasks to level up your character. Later on in class, we'll go over the graphics posted here outlining the daily activities you can complete to earn experience points, as well as some of the special events you'll have during your time at the Academy this year. You'll have a pacing guide to help you, but each quarter you must complete the main quest activities outlined in order to reach your experience goal. Each activity you complete earns you experience points. During the first quarter, you'll need to meet a goal of 140 experience to earn a 100% in this part of your academic team class grade. There are 150 points available this first quarter, so you don't have to complete every single activity to get a 100% in this part of the class. During this time, you are also welcome to work on side quests, which also have their own page on your class website. This list will be updated frequently with new quests you can complete and use to earn coins, which are totaled up at the end of each quarter and can be turned in for rewards. There are also feats of strength you can complete, which also have their own corner of the website. These are more long-term, legendary goals which will help you succeed in your subject area. Your class website also has areas for progress monitoring, and celebrating student success will happen in a showroom where your projects and products will be showcased online. One thing about the class is that you'll be telling the story. Every class has unique quests to complete, monsters to battle, and passages of flavor text detailing your learning at the Academy. Teachers used AI to generate most of these visuals as well as text when building our adventure, and we'll use some of that going forward. You'll be polled on what problems we face, what projects might make fun quests to do, what monsters should be battled, and where this story goes from here. We have some fun ideas for a lot of this, but we really want your input. We're hoping that this will be our most successful year for the academic team yet. Thank you for participating in advance. Whether you find our fantasy adventure reskin of the class interesting or not won't affect how much enjoyment you can get from this class. We hope you find this class to be an opportunity to truly explore some of the subjects you found fascinating and hopefully open some roads to take your learning to a deeper and more rewarding level.